Hi, everyone, and welcome to Elevate Your Life on Dr. T TV. I'm Dr. T, and this is the place where emotionally sensitive people get the emotional tools they need to succeed. With me today is an amazing guest who I am so excited to introduce you all to. This is Mark Struczewski. Mark Struczewski. And Mark, aka Mr. Productivity, helps entrepreneurs deal with the overwhelm that disrupts their focus. In addition to being a productivity expert, Mark is the host of the Mark Struczewski podcast, and he's an online trainer. His strategies have guided entrepreneurs, CEOs and executive directors, business owners, and business corporate specialists to get back control of their time. You can find out more about connecting with Mark and his mission to create confident leaders at MrProductivity.com. Welcome, Mr. Productivity, to the show.
Well, Dr. T, I guess we're not using our real names today, so Mr. Productivity. Dr. T, thank you for having me on the show. And also thank you for being on episode 448 of the Mark Struczewski podcast. Now over 750 episodes. And on January 1st, I had this insane idea. I said, I'm going to create a new episode every day in 2021. So far, I've not missed a day. So
you are amazing. You are amazing. It was so fun to be on there, Mark. And productivity is key to everybody materializing all of this great talent that they have. And you and I both know that, out of all of the issues in the world, and there are many, and all the different struggles that people can have, that in many ways it boils down to people being able to have this capacity to go from an intention, an idea, right? An inspiration, something that they want to create as an outcome or an income, and to be able to just go from that intention to that outcome and that income without all kinds of emotional stuff getting in the way or just chaos and things that make things more complicated than they actually are. And so tell us about your journey in your life that really led you to make productivity your purpose.
What's interesting is I get asked this question a lot. How did you become Mr. Productivity? And no, I was not born and said, I want to teach people productivity. That didn't happen, okay? What did happen is I was the only child, and I was raised in a very structured home. So got up for school. I had to do certain things before I had breakfast, went off to get the school bus, came home, had to do my homework. I had to have my bath or shower at a certain time. So I think my parents raised me because they raised me structured, that I naturally became structured. And matter of fact, when I fell into productivity I was fired from my corporate job in July 2005, and I, entered the world of entrepreneurship. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I tried this, that, and the other thing, nothing seemed to work. And I was on a phone call with one of my coaches at the time. And I said, he goes, what's going on? You sound kind of down. I'm like, I love helping people and speaking and training, but I don't know what I should do. And he goes, well, why don't you teach people how to be more productive? And I remember saying to him, I don't know where that came from, but why would you say that? He goes, I know a lot of people. You're one of the most naturally gifted, productive people I know. Why don't you share it with the world? And as the rest, as I say, is history.
I love this, because what I'm really understanding here, Mark, is that in your upbringing, your emotional conditioning, right? Your developmental infrastructure was intentional, right? Rather than reactive, where what can happen is it's sort of the let's see what happens program. And instead you have the let's make things happen, right? Let's be intentional. Let's be clear. We're going to get up. We're going to do this. We're going to check boxes, take care of things, and move through an infrastructure in life and use infrastructure. But what I love about it so much of what you're saying is this is what I really refer to as this is an emotional infrastructure that ends up creating a behavioral one. And it's a rhythm and it's a conditioning. So, right, this was your conditioning. And I love that your friend pointed this out and really knew that about you, because it's really showing that you being who you are is your role in life and how much that helps people. Is that tracking for you? Does that sound like on point?
Oh, 100%. Because I think most people experience this at some point in their life. Someone says, well, why don't you do this? Or why don't you doing this? And it's like, oh, I never thought about it. For example, I self-published 2 books a number of years ago, have nothing to do with productivity, but I have built such a fan base. And they said, Mark, when's your book coming out? Mark, when's your book coming out? I'm like, I wasn't going to write a book. Oh, you got to write a book. I'm like, I don't want to write a book. You have to write a book. So I just happened to talk to someone on my about being on my show yesterday who was a ghostwriter. And I think ghostwriters are awesome because ghostwriters, they interview you for a long time, and then they write the book for you. I'm like, that's a thing? So I don't have to write the book. That is so cool. So I guess I will be writing my book probably sometime in 2022 because I've got this ghostwriter that I'll hire, and then they'll write the book for me. So I get the best of both worlds. I get to write a book, but not write the book.
Well, and what I love about this too is having published books. I'm about to publish a second one, and I'm in the middle of a third one. I remember a few years ago getting that recognition too, going, wait a second. I'm already doing this with my website and things like that, where people on our team or people that are, people on our team at the time, they're taking this content, this important training, and being able to put it into exactly how I would say it, but better. Right. And so what I love about that too is that it's really about connecting to the outcome we want rather than all of these sort of beliefs and stories about all the effort that's required to get there. Because I'm seeing productivity about like, if this is my intention, this is the outcome I'm going for, what's just the strategy to make that happen that really benefits me and that is going to benefit people from that content as well?
Yeah, I think, you said one of my favorite words earlier in the show, intentionality. Everyone's got these great ideas. Someday someday I should do this. Yeah. And as Tony Robbins says, we're shoulding all over ourselves. Yeah. That doesn't get the job done. We've got to take action. So it's not enough to say, I want to write a book. This is totally different when you sit down and you start actually putting your thoughts on paper. That's taking action. He also says, if you take the wrong action, it's better than taking no action, because then you can always pivot to the right action. But so many people are waiting for that perfect opportunity. I deal with this with my coaching clients. They're like, well, before I get started, what's the perfect app? Like, I'm a bullet journaler, okay? Yeah. What's the perfect bullet journal? That's procrastination. when you're looking for the number one piece of technology or notebook or pen or whatever, that's procrastination. Just get started, and you can figure it out as you go along.
I love Tony so much. And that's such a game changer too, because what you're doing, again, we're talking about, especially here, we talk about emotional processes and emotional conditioning and the stuff that's really, it's really, my favorite thing is that you're talking about creating a pattern that just is flowing. So if you have an intention, you have an inspiration, something you want to accomplish, when you actually start doing that thing, even if you're going to refine it or morph it, what you're doing is you're creating forward momentum. And you can always go, okay, let me shift. But if you don't have the forward momentum, then you're always trying to that's a pattern that you're just you're in a holding pattern. And going forward is what's happening in life. So when you go forward, you can always go, okay, I want to actually dial it over here and dial it over there. And Mark, you're saying something so important. I think I know they really underestimate just going forward with action and becoming someone who does that.
I mean, you take professional sports. Have you ever seen like a basketball game or a football game where they're just standing there? Right. No, they're actually throwing the ball or shooting the ball or blocking. Right. They're doing something. Nothing happens without action. So I got news for your listeners. The Publishers Clearinghouse is not going to come to your house and give you $1 million. It's not going to happen. If you want to make the money, if you want to be more productive, if you want to become the best organic farmer in the world, you have to get off your butt and go do something.
Yeah, and again, I really am tying this to what I feel was really fortunate for you, that you had this infrastructure of doing, and just we go from this to this to this. I get that depending on people's upbringing, whatever the emotional patterns of their parents and the people around them, their brothers and sisters, you can end up following that, right? You end up syncing up with that. So if somebody was hesitating all the time, if somebody was overthinking it all the time, same stuff here. Like, without realizing it, people think a lot. It's like, well, that my outcome in life or who I am depends on how my parents were to me. And really, it's how they were, because you're going to sync up with how they are. You're syncing up with the conditioning, and that's true whoever you're around at this point in your life. So the rhythm of structure, which gets a really bad reputation, so let's get some good PR here. The rhythm of structure is really supporting those outcomes. And it is, I feel it, it's just a very intentional one instead of getting hung up on the perfect pen and things like that. It's really cool, Mark.
Exactly. One of my favorite quotes came from the late Charlie Tremendous Jones. He used to say, in 5 years, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the books you read and the people you meet. So if people in your life are not encouraging you, if they're not cheering you on, if they're instead, I used the analogy of Winnie the Pooh. Okay, Winnie the Pooh had Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, that's me, hyperactively happy, and Eeyore. You don't want to hang around Eeyores. It's never going to work out. I'm never going to release the book. This podcast episode is never going to out. You want to hang around Winnie the Poohs and Tiggers. You want to hang around people who are excited about life. That's who you want to hang around. So if you have anybody in your life that's an Eeyore, distance yourself from them because they are not serving you.
Yeah, I love this. Really aligning with, if there's something you want to be doing, that's why I'd love, the world we're in now where everybody can inspire each other so much, because what's happening is we get to sync up with better ideas and better energy and better patterns and rhythms of productivity. And again, otherwise, right, you can have that conditioning, which is like writing a book is so difficult. And, for me, I remember going, what if I actually say I'm authoring a book? How much more quickly will I get these done, right? Because am I writing? Am I do I have to write? Do I have to change no, I'm authoring it, knowing what its outcome is. And that's why emotional conditioning is so fun. And I know what you're doing, Mark, is the same thing, right? You're giving people the important perspectives and mindsets so they can internalize it and just get shit done. And that feels good, right? To be people who flow and achieve things with the moments of their life with the same 24 hours, right? Each day.
Absolutely. And everyone has the same 24 hours. So I don't care if I don't know who's the richest person in the world right now, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. But if you're a crossing guard at school, you have the same 24 hours. Yeah. The difference is they're making different decisions than you. Okay. Now people go, well, you understand, Mark, I don't make a lot of money. I barely can afford to pay the rent and put food on the table. What am I going to do? Libraries are still free. Yeah. So you can learn anything. You can go to YouTube for free and learn a skill. So in this day and age, in 2021, there's no excuse. If you want to learn, and we talked about Tony Robbins a couple of times, he says it's not a question of resources, it's a question of resourcefulness. Library is a resource. YouTube is a resource. So I don't want to hear you can't do it. If you truly want to become a coder or a farmer or whatever the case may be, there's ways you can learn that without spending a dime, okay? Because the libraries have internet. So if you can't afford internet, they got computers and internet. So I don't want to hear I'm tired of people saying their excuses, because if you really want something, you'll find a way to get it.
We're like, we're not having it. Don't even bring that to, we're not even going to hear it, people. And this is so cool, Mark, because again, we're talking about, your emotional conditioning creates your conditions, right? Yep. And whatever your conditions are, you can just kind of go, well, whatever's good about it and whatever's not is where you want it to be, that's the result of whatever your emotional and behavioral conditioning has been. However, you can shift any of your conditions with new conditioning. And being focused on an outcome, being focused on an intention, when that just becomes your focus, when you are like, that's my focus, that's happening, that's who I am, then you start to act like that person, right? You actually live out what that person does. So if I want to be the iconic leader of a global transformation dynasty, I'm going to do what that woman does, right? I'm going to do, and if I got to go to the library to get something to happen, I'm going to do what she would do to get herself there.
I don't know too many successful people that make excuses.
I got you, Mark. Yeah. Let's invite that. So everybody, we're really giving you an invitation to recognize that the emotional pattern of these excuses, by the way, that's everywhere in the atmosphere, so it's kind of infectious. But also, your intentions are infectious too. The things that you're excited about, because, Mark, you and I get to know like how fun it is to go through a day and be serving and contributing and helping people in the things that you love, rather than, having a job, right? This is having a contribution and a purpose. And I love your example. You're a crossing guard right now. Like, just, and whatever it is, whatever's true for you, decide that purpose and that contribution, and no excuses. Just make the decision to move in that direction. Very, very powerful.
We've provided so much information, and it's only a few minutes in the show. So
I got that. Well, I'm loving too this example of, I so picture this of, so you wanting to do anything, and then a procrastination pattern, right? This is one of the biggest ones in the world. And as an emotional training expert who works with the most difficult disorders and addictions and things like that, I got to say, procrastination feels like one of the number one emotional disordered patterns that are going on. And I can just see that whole thing like, I need to put on the perfect outfit. I need the perfect journal. And what I recognize is every time somebody's going to just do something that's way more simple, they're bringing all of this emotional baggage with it that doesn't really belong there, because the very thing you want to be doing is the very thing that you're supposed to be doing, like effective immediately.
Yep.
It's very, very, very entertaining. So Mark, give us a sense of, as Mr. Productivity, as this expert in hundreds of shows and all the service that you're giving to people, and just continually putting productivity in the world as a priority, what are the types of things that you do that are the most effective things that really help people get this productivity pattern internalized and applied into their life?
Well, we already mentioned about intentionality. Something else I'm a big fan of is consistency. Okay. Your body likes consistency. So, for example, 7 days a week, I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in bed. The screens are out by 8 o'clock. And then that last hour, I'm either reading a print book or doing something without screens. I'm in bed by 8:45, 9 o'clock. So I'm getting consistent sleep every night. I make sure I spend at least an hour every day reading. I do sit down and say, okay, what do I need to do today? Okay. And I make sure the stuff gets done. And then, when I have to take what I call a micro break, if I'm not feeling it, if I'm feeling frustrated, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, not during this interview, of course, I could be overwhelmed with you. If I'm not feeling it, whether I'm writing a blog post or the case may be, I get up from where I am and I'll go walk around the block or go outside and throw the ball around for the dog or something like that. It's consistency. You gotta listen to your body and know, okay, what I'm doing right now, I'm not feeling it. So I'm going to go try to change up my state a little bit. So I would say the secret is being consistent. Don't do one thing on Monday and another thing on Tuesday, another thing on Wednesday. I'm not saying all your days have to look exactly the same. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is consistently be consistent. You make sure you tell your time where to go instead of wondering where it went. That's something I say to my audience, my podcast all the time. It's your 24 hours. I don't care if you work for a corporation. I don't care if you're a mother of 12. You get to pick how you spend those 24 hours. And I want you to say, okay, yes, I have 12 kids. Or, because of COVID, everybody's living at home. Okay, well, how are you going to spend that time? How are you going to help your kids spend that time? Be very intentional. Be very consistent. Don't have a good day on a Monday and then I'm just going to whatever happens on Tuesday, because then you're getting out of whack. You're going consistent, inconsistency. Yeah. And the problem is that throws you out of balance, but then it causes you overwhelm and frustration.
So consistently be consistent. You heard it here. Mark's quotable. That is very, very powerful. And I love the simplicity of it. This is what I love about what we do, right? We're essentially replacing faulty emotional training that we all, can absorb in this life of so much everything out there, and consistently be consistent. This reminds me, I think of a client that I've been working with who, one of his issues was sleep. And part of the process was that he did something completely different on the weekends than he did during the week. So to the point, the body is built, we're built for automation, right? So that we do something and we have a rhythm to it and it keeps creating consistent outcomes. So if you're switching it up all the time, your own self is in a chaotic state rather than one where it's like, this is how we do, this is how we roll. And I love, Mark, what you're saying is when you aren't consistent and you go in and out of it, then you end up in a whole other pattern of overwhelm and frustration because it's almost like I'm getting this. You're trying to like restart stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. Am I getting that correctly?
Yeah, or you pick up this little device, this phone, and you start scrolling through social media endlessly because you're like, well, I'm not feeling it. Let me go to Snapchat. Let me go to TikTok. Let me go to LinkedIn. And then you spend 3-4 hours on there. But if you took the time and said, look, this is what I'm going to do today. That's why I tell people, especially if you're working from home, you're going to get tempted to look at the dishes in the sink or put a load of laundry in the washing machine. So here's what I do. People, what do you do? I said, schedule it. So that way, if you scheduled housework, say from 1 to 1:30, and you go out and get something to drink at 10 o'clock and you see the dishes in the sink and you start going over the sink, oh, wait, no, it's on my schedule. Now you can go back and rest easy. Same with social media. You're going to be on social media anyways. So schedule a 30-minute chunk somewhere around lunchtime or something like that. So you have permission to go on social media for 30 minutes, guilt-free. What the problem is, people schedule every minute of your day, which I don't recommend you doing. You need to let your schedule breathe. And that way you can go on social media or do the dishes or take the dog for a walk because the pooch needs a walk. And that way you're not stressed. The problem is people schedule every minute and then they're like, well, I got to get the dishes done. I got to do this. And then you get really tied up in knots and then your productivity goes in the toilet.
Well, this is really cool too. And I just recognized something that, their scheduling kind of gets bad PR. Also, like it gets good PR and bad PR and also depending on how emotionally sensitive you are, there can be a pattern where people like scheduling is like I'm in prison, or rather than like what I'm getting is you're using time in an intentional way. And yes. I remember years ago in the initial stages of Facebook, because for whatever reason I did not join in the MySpace era. I was like, okay, if I'm going to open up my whole life to like every, piece of stimulus, it's got to be really intentional because I could go on there and lose my whole life in a reaction pattern to all of the stimulus. Or I can say to myself, I'd like to see what my cousin's doing on her trip. And then I'm going to intentionally go get that outcome rather than we're basically now in this whole reactive lifestyle that's where people's time is going to. So, but I love it's like you want to go on social media, get purposeful and intentional about it. And so that you're not like 4 hours later, like, wait, what was I doing today? And now I'm backed up. Yeah.
And here, I just want to say this. When people say, oh, a schedule makes me feel confined. I'm like, but you get to create your own schedule. So you're tying yourself up in knots. You get to choose what goes on your calendar. So why does that feel structured? You go, okay, I'm gonna read. I'm gonna watch a video. You get to pick. No one's telling you what to do. You get to pick. So why does it make people feel uncomfortable when you are the one creating the schedule?
Isn't this something, Mark? This is why I love getting down into the layers and layers of emotional stuff going on for people. Because when I fact check it like you are, it's nonsensical. It's like you're choosing what your intentions are. You're choosing to block out a devoted resource. This is the amount of time that I am choosing to get this outcome or move further in the direction of this outcome. That process, it's interesting. Structure makes me feel supported. It's a strategy. Yes. But my tracking is the more emotionally sensitive people are, where they can just feel a lot more than everybody else is tuning into, right? There's a population of people that just feel everything. It's like the second you say schedule or time, it's like already the clock is ticking and it's like TikTok rather than like, I have so much time scheduled, I just have this great amount of time scheduled to take care of this. And so I'm glad we're laughing at this, Mark, because I have fun recognizing how silly these things are. And shifting them in ways that are simple but really powerful.
I had a client once that I finally got them to schedule. And then all of a sudden I got this text and they said, I've got something scheduled at 11 o'clock and I don't want to do it. What do I do? I'm like, move it. She goes, what? I said, move it. I'm like, I can do that? It's your schedule. Yes, you can move it. I mean, I wouldn't move a coaching client or a podcast interview,
Right.
but if you got like, I'm going to write my book from 11 to 12, but you're not feeling it, then move it to 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And she goes, really? And she was just so stunned. She didn't know she could move events on her own calendar. It's like, you're overthinking this. You are overthinking this. Let it go.
Yeah. Mark, you are talking about another big emotional pattern, which is the overthinking, which is really, again, I really get sort of the causal level is that we are really in history, we are in the most stimulating environment we've ever been in. We have infinite choices, infinite options, infinite information. And so it's really interesting how that I think ends up where people, it makes things over. There's an over amount and an over level, and overthinking versus like, what's my outcome? My outcome is to accomplish this, say this book in this case, and also to enjoy myself. So I'm going to put it where that's going to feel better. But it really, what you're sharing with me is really telling me how complicated things have become.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I'm so glad that we can uncomplicate them here, but that pattern of complication is really something.
And I think people feel a sense of, it's a badge of honor to make things complex. And I'm trying to swim upstream. I'm like, no, simplicity. Stop making things complex. Because if I came on your show and I said, Dr. Here's 97 things your listeners can do to become more productive, then I'm like, I'm out. But if I say, here's one thing, and like, oh, I can do that. Yeah. So stop making things unnecessarily complex. Slow down. Breathe in and make it simple. I don't know why everyone thinks it's a badge of honor to make things complex. It's not. It frustrates you and everybody else.
Well, and this goes along with something that I recognized years and years ago as I was in my own journey struggling with certain emotional issues that were going on, and like going to therapy for these things and reading all kinds of books. And I remember just at some point going like, well, first of all, seeing all the areas I was successful and going, doesn't it make sense for me to just build on those? And does it make sense that I'm going to try to go back and go through every element of my childhood to correct it? That might take a long time. So what's more simple? And I thought, this got to be simple. If somebody's got struggles or traumas or difficulties or crisis or just being in this human domain and all the stuff that comes along with it, what's the simplest way to move through things? And I got real clear. It was like, stop reacting, harness all of your intentions, right? Your emotions go into your intentions and follow through with them, so that this just keeps you in a more elevated life. And we know our friend Tony refers to this as an elevated state, right? Because otherwise you're in this complexity and the drudgery. And really it's like, there are no brownie points for that. There really aren't any of them. It makes things take forever, right? It makes things take forever.
I got a challenge for your audience.
Yes.
I want them to actually schedule an hour of their time. I don't want you to do this on the fly. I want you to schedule an hour for your time. Go someplace quiet, no technology. And I want you to think, how many things are you doing every day that you can simplify? I think writing them down with a piece of paper and a pen and go, you know what? Why am I, and question yourself, because Tony says he's the why guy. Just say, why am I doing this? Why is it so complex? Can I make this simple? Look, at most people are going to go, oh, yeah, Mark, it's a great idea. But how many people are actually going to do it? Yeah. I tell you, if you do that exercise, your life is going to forever change. But you got to do the exercise. You have to sit there quietly and do it. Well, I love this too, because if you think about the amount of time that goes into complexity, right? It's like if you I don't know if any of you have done this, but I do occasionally. If you look at a countdown timer of your life, if you just put in your life expectancy, take anything, pick 70, pick 90, whatever it is, and you start to watch this countdown timer, which, I go, okay, let me check in on how many hours I've got left. And you think of it like, how much of myself would I want to earmark to this decision, and it taking 5 hours of, should I do this? Rather than being somebody who is decisive, and then just that pattern is much more of a time gainer than devoting so much time to what
is much easier. And so I love this exercise. I'm going to do it. I want everybody to follow along what Mark's recommending, because the countdown timer is on.
Yeah, whether you know it or not, when you were born, that clock started counting backwards. The thing is, we don't know when it's going to get to all zeros.
Don't.
I'm 55 years young. My goal is to make it to at least triple digits. But we don't know. That's the thing. We don't know. Who thought with COVID is going to be here? Things happen. And so I wake up every day as my tinker self to be the best I can, to serve as many people as I can, because I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. Yeah. And so many people go, well, when I get my degree, or when I'm 40, when I'm 50, when I'm 60, stop waiting. Just do something. Start living your life today. Tony Robbins says, live with passion. Are you living with passion? Do you wake up every day like, oh, it's another day? Like I wake up every morning like a child at Christmas. Or do you wake up every day and go, oh, it's morning? like I get up since February 2020. I've been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Over a year. People go, how do you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? I'm like, how do you not get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Because I've been doing it so long. My body wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning now.
You conditioned it. Yeah, you condition it.
You can condition anything in your life. Anything you can condition, but you got to want it. Now, you can sit there and spend all your time on Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat, or you can say, you know what do I want in life? And I challenge people to sit down as part of the other exercise we talked about and say, what do you want out of life? I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. I don't care. What do you want out of life? Because I'm 55. I did not know what I wanted to do. It took me getting fired from my job 16 years ago to like, oh, this isn't all there is, and that's where I am today. So what do you want out of life? And here's the best thing about it, Dr. T. Costs no money. Okay, it's just you, a piece of paper, and a notebook, and a pen. Just dream. It costs you nothing. I don't know why more people do this. It's almost like, well, I'm not paying for it, so it's not real. Listen, if you don't do this, you're going to be paying for a lot of pain down the line because you didn't take the time to live your life intentionally.
This is so cool because intentionality just, it drives my life, and having conditioned intentionality for years. So the auto response to everything is, what's my outcome? What's my intention? If I slip on over into a pattern of, being off track or something like that, I'm like, what's my outcome? What am I going for? What? And so when you have it as what you want, you have your dreams, you have whatever's in this set of stuff, the hierarchy for you, it starts to really refine what you do in that direction. And I'm thinking about a client that I've worked with who had a lot of regrets at one point about not having focused on his finances, right? And he's a more mature gentleman, and he had thought that it was all of this convoluted, it's like he needed to basically become Susie Orman or something like that, right? And I was like, really? Focusing on your finances, like actually just focusing on, what do you want? How much money do you want? It goes along with the whatever you want category, and money is a part of that. Yep. And I do think it's really, that part has also become too overcomplicated, where people are, to your point, Mark, lowering the value of simple intentionality. What do I want? Everything flows in that direction, and it's available with you and yourself. That's the power of intention.
Mm-hmm. And we talked a lot about this stuff on the show today, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind, because I think the same way on my show. I'm like, are people just like passively listening? How many people listening or watching are actually going to do what we're talking about? Yeah. I'd love to know that, because it's nice. You get all warm and fuzzy feelings. Oh, this is such a great show. But that's not the magic. The magic is you doing something about it. And I would love to know, both on your shows and people listen to all my podcasts, how many people take action?
Yeah.
Because I remember
implementation, right?
Exactly. I remember when I used to be a speaker, and I would speak around Houston, and I would see the same people over and over again. And of course, they give the same presentation. And I'm like, are you not doing what I'm telling you to? I mean, because they'd ask the same questions. I'm like, do you just like come and do presentation? You got to make a decision. Are you just going to like absorb as much information as you can, or are you going to take action and change your life? It's your choice.
This is so funny, Mark, because one of my head scratcher life experiences, like, I'm giving out really good directions here. And I realize lots of people in the universe are giving a lot of good directions. I'm like, it's actually the way you've learned it is if you've implemented. And so the pattern in society is to keep absorbing and absorbing and absorbing, rather than like absorption, implementation, because the implementation is what creates all the upgrades in your life. Yeah. Otherwise, you're like storing awarenesses, and that's its own complicated thing. That's how you end up going, which perfect pen do I need to write a journal entry?
Let me boil this down to biology. I'm going to keep this clean, so don't worry. So if you just kept drinking fluids and you just kept eating food, but you never used the restroom, what do you think is going to happen? Okay? Yes. What do I mean by that really childish example? Stuff's got to come in and stuff's got to go out. Okay, your life, you got to learn stuff, and it's got to go back out of you by serving other people, by creating products and services, or you're going to get stopped up, and you don't want to be stopped up. You can't just keep hoarding this information because I don't know one person, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, right. I don't see one person that just accumulated a bunch of knowledge and they become very successful. No, what they did, they took that knowledge and they created something with it. You got to do that. You got to create. You just can't consume. That's not the secret.
This goes along with, again, this is so fabulous because it goes with one of my core tenets of life, which is we're powerful creators, right? We're not workers. We're not we're not enslaved here. We're creators. And so we're given a lot of access to intelligence and information and intuition. And it's exactly, Mark, I feel like you've been hanging out with me because I was just talking about this with my team regarding a new client. And I said, I feel like, and she's been in therapy for a very long time, and now we're actually going to put that stuff into action. And I said, it feels like she's been hoarding consciousness, and there's like this excessive consciousness, but her materialization of it is not where it should be for how smart she is. And so what we do here, right, is help you train yourself into actually materializing these outcomes, because then that creates its own feedback loop. So it's really funny. One of my members of my team is like, I've never heard about excessive consciousness. And I'm like, yes, this year when we're working, this is a doing year, baby. Like, stuff is getting done. So I love this. It cannot go. You have to pee, people. It has to. I've never thought I would be saying this, Mike. We're going to pee it into our contribution into the universe here. The emotional peeing into the universe. Okay.
Oh my goodness. I love to know what your audience thinks right now.
This is us. This is us. Whatever it takes for you all to take action.
Yes.
We're bringing it to you. Mark, amongst these fabulous nuggets and strategies that you were giving us, give us a sense of what happens when people work with you and their clients and, they get the full throttle Mr. Productivity experience. What are the types of outcomes that they're able to achieve?
Well, being a host of the Mark Struczewski podcast for a long time, I've become a very good listener. So I know what people are really saying beneath the surface. So when they come to me and say, I'm having trouble with this, I'm like, nah, there's something much deeper with that. So I am a type of person, I'm a type of coach that I really want everyone to succeed. And if you come to me and you don't succeed, it's your fault. Because I bend over backwards to all my clients. And I want to give them a sense of peace. I want them to not like going to Mark's coaching sessions like going to the dentist, or in my case, going to phlebotomist because I hate getting blood drawn. I want people to get something out of every conversation we have. And no two calls are ever the same, okay? Because I'm listening. What is your real problem? Because I look at myself as like an ER doctor, okay? If you came in with a broken arm, it'd be kind of weird if I say, well, sorry, today's Friday, and we don't do broken arms on Friday. We do broken arms on Saturdays and Thursdays. That's weird, right? And so I'm always listening to my clients. So I love every one of my clients. I love the people who have come and they've left and come back and they go, I've gone to other people, but there's something about you, because I really care about my clients. There's people maybe smarter than me, but I really genuinely care. I don't see dollar signs when I see my clients. I see a fellow human being that just needs some help.
This is so sweet because I feel how intentional you are, Mark. Your outcomes are your clients' outcomes, and I really relate to that. right? Because it's so wonderful to see people thriving, right? And when we're witnessing people struggling, right, that's not where we want them to be. And that's our fellow brother and sister in this life. And I love when you're able to put the strategies into their life and really awaken them and allow them to be able to apply themselves. These are your outcomes, and I'm getting that. And how you can have there's a lot of stuff out there, everyone, that might seem, shiny and sparkly and all of that, which I love that. But at the core of it, you got to be with people that can actually understand what the barriers are. And I'm getting, Mark, how you're listening to the communication, but you're really intuitively recognizing the causation of what it is that's getting in the way for the person and removing that barrier for them. Does that sound accurate?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is so important, everyone, because what happens otherwise is that you'll be in a conversation with a coach or a therapist, and they will take what you are saying at face value, and you'll spend 5 years working on a problem that isn't even the freaking problem after all. Right? And people who are willing to go, hang on a second, actually underneath all that, here's the stuff that's going on that's keeping this from happening. When we shift that, it makes a massive expansive change in it, and this is really, really powerful. So I'm glad everybody's getting to learn about what you do for them, Mark. Right? It's a very important purpose that you're doing.
Thank you.
Really, really powerful. Anything else, Mark, that you want our audience to know in terms of, what your leadership and what you do over at mrproductivity.com, what that can do for them, so they can make, the upgrades and follow along with you?
Well, the first thing I would tell people to do when you go to mrproductivity.com, you can sign up to be a Mark Struczewski insider, which is free. It's just a fancy way I call my newsletter. And you get my top 5 productivity tips for entrepreneurs. If you're not an entrepreneur, they still are effective. But I also have a coaching program I'm super, super excited about. It's called the Digital Productivity Coaching Program. And it started out with daily accountability prompts. Then it morphed into a live group coaching call. And then I added on replays of all the group coaching calls. Then I created an online community on my website that's like a Facebook group, only it's not on Facebook because I don't want you on Facebook. It's distracting. Yeah. And then I decided to give people discounts to my one-on-one coaching. And then I decided I'm going to make it even better, that I created a membership site, which means that twice a month I'm going to create exclusive videos. So it's a community that people are starting to come into because they know I'm the real deal. I've proven myself since 2011. I know what I'm talking about, and I really care about people. My problem is I over deliver. So hint, hint. You're going to get way more value than you're going to pay for the monthly coaching. But I'm super excited about that. And you can also find out how to listen to my show, the Mark Struczewski podcast, episode 448 from September 24th, 2019, features the one and only Dr. P. So I've been doing this since July 7th, 2017, and I love the podcast.
So awesome. Yeah, it really feels like a big purpose for you. And this is amazing, everyone. This is, Mark's got all of this value for you that through all of these different services, and he's a humanist at heart here, and he's also providing a lot of value through his community and the different resources, and the podcast, right? Hundreds of episodes of how to be more productive and condition yourself for productivity instead of complexity, which I really like as an upgrade today. Mark, go ahead and share any links and stuff where you want us to find you. I gave the one, but go ahead and list anything else out.
Everything is at mrproductivity.com. Now, I will tell you, in terms of social media, you can find me on LinkedIn, but I want you to subscribe to the Mark Struczewski Insider first, okay? I play around with Snapchat, which is a very interesting story because people go, that's still a thing. A lot of people don't realize. Everybody knows Facebook tried to buy Snapchat in 2013. Google tried to buy it in 2016. So why are all these people trying to buy Snapchat? What is it? So I have gone, I'm not on Clubhouse. Everyone tells me I should be on Clubhouse. I don't have to be anywhere, okay? Yeah. So LinkedIn's number 1 for me. Snapchat's number 2 for me. It's because it's fun. But I want you to be a Mark Struczewski insider. I don't want you to follow me on social media until you become an insider, because all my best stuff is on my newsletter. It's inside.
It's inside, and you've heard it
and
here.
It's free.
Yeah,
it's free. So
this is so great. And I love all the things about, recognizing that going on certain platforms in itself can be distracting in a way that doesn't let you download the epic Mr. Productivity training that is available to you, and so you can start applying it. Now, Mark, here's a question that I ask everybody at the end of the show. And so the question really is about, if some bizarre, strange scenario made it so that this was the last moment that you could give a message to the world. And this message would be one that they would carry on through the generations. And it would be like, that's what Mark taught us, right? And this would be life-changing for them. What would that message be?
Own your life. Stop living someone else's life, whether it's a family member, a friend, a competitor, someone you see on social media, or a book you read. It's your life. Live your life. I have our family dentist went through what he went to? He went to mechanical engineering school. He got out, graduated with honors. He goes, "This isn't for me." He went back for dentistry school, graduated with honors. Look at. Own your life, okay? You only get one of these things. You get one life. So don't live someone else's life. And I'm not saying quit your job today. What I'm saying is you're not happy or you feel a calling doing something else. Today, do something today that's going to start moving you in that direction. You get your life. Own your life. It's really important. I think it's so sad when people are living other people's lives, other people's dreams. Live your life.
This is excellent, Mark. Instead of someone else's prescription, you've heard it from Mark. Own your life. And just make it the absolute greatest purpose and live out your potential. And I just want to invite everybody. Well, first, I want to thank everybody for being with us today and having fun. And really, I want to invite all of you to really internalize the strategies that we've given to you and then take the step to apply them and implement them and allow them to really elevate your life and everything that you're wanting to achieve. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.